Welcome to another episode of the Politrickkks Usual podcast. Today I have my dear friend Elizabeth with us today. Welcome to the show, your very
Thank
first podcast. How
you.
do you feel today?
I feel ambitious,
You feel ambitious.
clearly.
I see you. I see you.
Thank you
Of
for
course.
having me because, like you just said, this is my first
Mm-hmm.
official podcast. So I
Right.
feel honored.
Good, good. And we have a separate history outside of podcasting. I've known you for many years
Yeah.
and I've watched your journey of growth and watched you pivot into different things but all similar things. I think you've always been very, in my opinion, kind-hearted, big-hearted. Like you always seemed to be that type of person, no matter what it was you were doing. I know you worked at the shelter.
Mm-hmm.
And are you still there at the shelter?
I am going on almost 10 years,
That's
just
good.
developing and climbing, but most importantly, being of service to one of the most vulnerable populations.
That's right. That's right. And that's like I said, that's what I know you always to be, is always of
Yeah.
service. And you actually participated in one of our pop-up shops, and that was at the very beginning of this new journey that you're on with EKCOURAGE. So obviously tell us about what you're doing now with EKCOURAGE and what it is.
Yes. So EKCOURAGE actually was birthed back in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
At that time, I was at a point in my life just trying to figure out, with my education experience, my own personal experience, my professional experience, what can I do to make all of that relevant to one another, but at the same time, make an impact.
Right, right.
So with that being said, I have my education's experience in recreation and leisure administration with a community background. I'm always big and very big on community and making an impact in the community. And with that, going forward within my master's in social work, I learned how much an impact environment has on individuals.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
It just opened up my eyes. So just kind of as I got closer and closer to graduating, trying to figure out, okay, what's the next step? And for me, a lot of people was like, okay, are you going to become a DCF worker? Are you going to become a licensed clinician and provide services that way and open up your private practice? And I was like, okay, I mean, all relevant. But at the same time, for me, I knew I wanted to make an impact. I wanted to also be able to speak to people that look like me and you.
Right, right.
And also make sure people didn't feel uncomfortable, to understand their past does not have to dictate their future. And they don't always have to go in the realm of meeting with a clinician to do that. So for me, coaching is what really stood out. And for me with EKCOURAGE, that's exactly what EKCOURAGE stands by.
Okay.
It's a coaching and networking establishment.
Okay. So you began the journey in 2018.
I did, yeah.
And so when was the pop-up we had? That was about 2022, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, that was fairly recent. It was
maybe 2022.
2022, 2023.
It would have been 2022 because I think, was it the book? It wasn't my book bag giveaway. It was just a pop-up shop.
No, it was a pop-up shop,
but it was
here
around
in Stanford.
Right. It was around that time. So I want to say 2022. And I remember you setting up the tent and trying to get a walk, like a women's empowerment walk.
Yes.
That you were trying to put together. Is your organization, or does it have a target market? Like, is it mostly for women, or is there a target market?
Some would say yes. For me, my target market is individuals who are spiritually driven, spiritually motivated. As far as the age range, when you look at social media, it would say anywhere between 35 to 45.
I think
like
that's who this show is mostly for. So I think we're good here. I think this show is for more mature, older people.
Yes.
I'm covering things that are real life issues. So I think that you're spot on here.
Oh, that's perfect. That's perfect. And honestly, it's something I continuously work on, right? That target market, because there's so many different populations who can benefit from the services, right? Just like from your podcast, people can benefit from the topics that you're discussing in just different ways. But of course, as an entrepreneur, you have to have like that target, right? Like, who are we focusing on? Who are we trying to really, really go to? And who's also coming to us?
Right.
So I would say primarily, yes, women. A lot of my events do cater to women, but I'm also understanding, and as I continue to grow, I'm also incorporating males.
Okay.
So like even with the event that you spoke about that I was doing during the pop-up shop, that I actually initially started as just women, but then as time progressed, as the planning and the coordinating and everything just unveiled, spiritually, God said, this is time. You're going to have to expand it just beyond just women and open it to males. And me being who I am, EKCOURAGE, being spiritually driven, I follow his lead first and foremost.
That's right. That's right. And because you're doing that, I know it's going to be whatever it's supposed to be. But prior, you said something about that, you want to focus on just letting people know that their mistakes don't dictate, their future, whatever you've been through. Yes. It doesn't necessarily mean that the rest of your life has to be impacted in a negative way. And I think that's very important as well. When I speak to people privately, a lot of that conversation is like, listen, I know that happened. I know you've been through that, but like, that's okay. Like, move on from that. And I'm not doing that to slight your past or minimize your trauma or any of that. It's more or less to say that you got through that. Like, you went through it, but you got through it. And so because you got through it, that's a good thing. Like, you came out stronger and bigger and better and bolder. And I think it's important for people to know that, especially, I mean, for me, if we had to judge people on a past, like, then I wouldn't qualify for anything. You know what I mean?
Many of us.
You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't qualify for so many things. I mean, I've been to prison, I've been shot, I've been whatever you could think of in a negative light. Like, I've been through that. And so
and you're still standing.
I'm stumped. And so I take great pride in my resiliency and the way God has got me through all of that.
Absolutely.
But that's the thing. It's like, people got to understand that you have to. Those trials are necessary parts of the journey.
That's right.
Like, I tell anybody, like, when I was in the feds or whatever doing time, it's like, okay, you'd be like, oh man, I feel so bad for you. You in jail, and I'm like, bro, I'm cooling. Like, I'm in here, my mind is clear. I'm playing chess. I'm growing for real. You know what I mean? And I look back in the moment, I wanted to go home. You're like, man, I don't want to be in here. Who wants to be in here? But when I reflect back, I'm like, damn, like that was a period of my life that really grew and developed me in a way that I'm not sure anything else could have. And I always used to say how hard-headed I was. Like, I don't think nothing could have cracked me as much as I needed to be cracked. Like, I needed to be like cracked. and that's what happened. I got cracked.
Yeah. No.
But it's important to forgive that part of your life and to learn from that part of your life and then grow.
Right.
And move forward.
And a part of that journey is, like you said, it builds us and creates us to who you see now.
Correct.
And then more importantly, so for me, one of the things EKCOURAGE also provides is a online course. And this online course is called Morning Glory Blooms. And the purpose and the mission of this course is literally for people to understand these 3 words in this particular order: hurt, heal, help.
I like that.
So what that means is we all go through pains, right? We all go through some form of hurt in our lives. But at the end of the day, what are we doing to get that form of healing to take place? Are we going to stay right there in that hurt, in that pain, in what we call pain points? Or are we going to seek the help that we need in order to develop another alternative to get us away from what we've been through? Right. Because again, a part of growth comes from pain. Right. A lot of what we are and what we're striving towards, you got to go through something to get to something. That's a lot of times what people don't realize, right? And once you're able to get through that healing stage, you come away from whatever past hurt, pain you've been through. But now what are you going to do with it that you've been healed? That's right. You today, you've developed a whole podcast. You are developing so much, and you're pouring back. You could have been selfish and you could have been like, you know what? I'm going to do me and I'm going to continue to just do me. Right. But you're not. You're helping others. Right. And because you're able to help others, like when EKCOURAGE pour into others, we are able to continue our growth. And our pain was not in vain.
For sure. I always tell people, you get a choice. The only thing you get here is a choice of the way you respond to something. You don't get a choice in what happens to you. You don't get a choice in the things that happen outside of you, because those things happen. People are going to die. People are going to be mean to you. People are going to reject you.
Mm-hmm.
And you have no control over any of those things.
Right.
But what you do have control over is how you internalize whatever's happening outside of you, and then how you re-put it back, repurpose it, and put it back into the world.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, everything I've been through, and I look back and I'm like, yo, I survived more than, I mean, man, like, I'm like, God, it had to be God. That's how it works. It's like, yo, it got to be God. There's no way. They say God protects babies and fools. And I've been a fool many nights, you know, drinking and driving and just wilding out in the streets, just bugging out. And so the fact that I'm even still here for me is a got to be God. But the reason that I always choose to do it this way is because I always felt like I was always equipped. I always felt like I'm built for this. I always felt like that. Like I carry everybody. Like I always felt like that since I was small. And anytime I try to build, it's always for everyone. It's not just for me. I always tell people, like, securing me is easy. I can get me. If I want to get right and just be me and just be rich or whatever that is, or that's easy. Like I could do that. This be hard. You know what I'm saying? Because this be a larger lift, and it'd be more money, it'd be more time, it's everything. But I know, again, I get fulfilled when I see impact and I see people get encouraged and I see people, you know, achieve things, and that encourages me. That, you know, let me know, all right, this is right, and I'll take that. I'll take that, like, because I've been built for that. Like that's how I feel. So I've always felt that way. I've always felt that way.
You'll know, I think sometimes when certain things come your way and when things just come naturally, absolutely. That's I call that's your gift.
Right.
You know, not everybody can equally say that they can just be that giving and building, not just for themselves, but for everyone else, or be that one that people can lean and, you know, depend on. But when it's just something that is just you, it's just you.
Right. And I think another thing too, in my life, you know, like you said earlier about your life, you was, you know, going through some things, and I was going through everything. It always feels like I'm going through everything, but I was going through a lot at that time, and I just remember just like kind of just being like, yo, whatever it's going to be, let it be, and just kind of like letting go.
Let go and let God. Let go and let God.
And from there, it's just been a different. It's been different, a lot different.
Yeah, I mean, because it's not just you. You know, when you start to really, really, truly let go, and I add, you know, and let God, then that's when you know it's no longer about just you.
Right.
And it's no longer you having to take on all this control, because at the end of the day, He's in control.
That's right. And so that moment is when I, you know, I'm going to film that more in detail, like everything I was experiencing. But again, I just kept getting these ideas of like, do this, do that, you know. And I started building it, and I didn't have anything. The first thing I got was that sign. Like I didn't have this space. I didn't have anything. I just had an idea, and I had the clothing line. I had started that. I started with logos on hats.
Yes.
And I called my boy JP, and I'm like, JP, I need a sign for a podcast. And he made me this big old sign. It's for like outside. It's supposed to be a smaller sign, but it's a beautiful sign.
It sure is.
And I just had the sign. I had it sitting around in my storage unit. It was just sitting in the storage unit, and I didn't have the space for anything. But since opening this space, and I think this is similar to what you do as well, since opening this space has already been like a very safe space for a lot of people. And that's what I knew. I'm like, yeah, like I'm supposed to have this space, because people have come in here and really just like start healing. You know what I mean? And start talking and start whatever. I got guys that come from up the hill or whatever. They come sit here with me, we talk, whatever. But it's all happening in this space. And I'm like, yo, I think safe spaces, especially, and you can speak to women because you're a woman. But for me, and as a Black male, there's, I would say, even less safe spaces, because it's because the Black male too is also broken down into different. There's different Black males, you know. There's different layers of vulnerability. If I'm on the block all day and I'm out in the warrant, I can't really be that vulnerable. Like it's hard to be vulnerable when you're in a war zone. You know what I mean? So you got that Black man. That's a different Black man than the 9-to-5 Black man who dealing with, maybe some racism or discrimination or whatever he's feeling, and not to slight his experience either. But that guy that's on the block, that's on the street, that's a totally different experience in this country. And I think that's for me what I speak to well, because I've been through a lot of the street stuff, so that they're able to connect with me in that way. Because I remember when I was outside and people would come out, pastors or whoever, I'd be like, boy, get up out of here. Get up out of here, my man. You can't relate to what we got going on out here. That's how I felt. I felt like you don't know what's going on.
It's different.
I remember those pastors would come up to us on the block, and it'd be like 10 of us. We out there doing whatever we doing, chilling, drinking, whatever we probably shouldn't be doing. And I just remember feeling like they couldn't truly identify. I'm like, man, this guy, you don't know what you're talking about, bro. So I couldn't really receive. I couldn't pick up what he was putting down, because it's like, boy, you don't know, you ain't been out on this, you don't know what's going on out here. And so for me, I know when I'm speaking to guys, particularly black men, particularly street guys, and I'm not saying I'm like the most super street guy, but I've done a lot. Like, I've been through pretty much every facet of the street. And I think that it allows them to be a lot more vulnerable, because they do connect. And I mean, guys be crying and all types of stuff. And I know it's necessary. I'm like, yo, bro, get that off your chest. Like, it's like most of us are walking around on an 8 all day. You know what I mean? So 10 is right there. Like, 10 is right there. The eight right there, like poverty, man, kids, my baby mom, whatever's going on, the streets are broke, whatever's going on, like, you at an 8 and 10 is right there. So I try to provide conversations and spaces, particularly for black men, to like be vulnerable. Like, bro, you gonna cry, bro. Like, you ain't soft, man. You gotta let that off your chest, bro. Or it's gonna manifest another way. No matter what, it's gonna come out like that. Whatever you feeling, it's gonna come out like one way or the other. It's gonna come out through these tear ducts, or it'll come out through these trigger fingers or something. But it's gonna come out. So I know that I'm doing that work for black men, but let's speak to what you're doing for, in the spaces and the necessity for a space for black women.
Yeah. So with EKCOURAGE, I will say, similar to you, again, spiritually speaking, I always go to and seek him first. So one of the things I know for certain he showed and has told me again and again, no matter what opportunities that may come, growing up in the church, I saw firsthand, how often, holier than thou, sanctified, everything.
Right.
People still go through things.
Of course.
And people sometimes, because of putting on this mask and always thinking that they have to be perfect and having to always just shine. But sometimes that light can go dim.
That's right.
And speaking personally, for me, I know what it feels like to go through depression.
Right.
I know what it feels like to have anxiety. So for me, I knew it was time for me to be able to also provide that service and be able to be a voice of encouragement, but also be a listening ear, as well as hold people accountable for those individuals who every day can look like they got everything going on in the world that's like perfectly shining on the outside, but deep on the inside, they're like crying. So one of the things God told me was, I want you to do this, and I need you to speak life to some people, but I also need you to make sure you do this. Anytime you have something that's not going to be in a church, I want you to tap into the souls, but you're not going to do it in the environment of the church building and those walls. You're going to be able to speak life, and there's going to be some souls that need to and can only hear from you, but you're not going to do it in the traditional church. 2, you are also going to not convert anyone. That's not what I'm giving you this for. You will be able to pray with and for individuals that you work with. You will also be able to share scriptures if they would like it, but you're not here to convert. I'm not here to say, as a spiritual empowerment coach, I'm going to dig until you tell me, even if you can say you don't believe in God, that I'm going to force you, if you're going to work with me, that you have to. But I'm going to speak light on the subject.
That's right.
We're going to talk about, freedom of choice, because that's what he gives us, freedom of choice.
Right.
But also the accountability part. I can't speak life and say all this to other people, and I'm sitting here just praying and not doing the footwork myself.
Right. You said a bunch. So let me start with one of the reasons I couldn't connect with church when I was a kid. And my mom was like a church lady.
Yeah.
My sister, I call her my favorite big hat lady, my favorite prayer lady.
Yes.
So my mother was an usher, the whole thing, and we got baptized, the whole thing. But I never could quite connect with church. I remember sitting there having so many questions, and just about character, pastors' characters, all types of stuff. It's like, how you up here preaching and you know, I'm hearing these things or whatever, right? And so I think that it's twofold, right? It's like you always have to pay attention to the message, always, no matter what, regardless of who the messenger may be, whether you agree or disagree with the messenger or not. But also, as a messenger, though, you should try your very best to walk in a light that's not going to get you viewed that way. I feel like if you're moving in that spirit, people should see it. I feel like people will know it, you know, just by your acts and by your deeds and by your kindness and by your demeanor. I think people would know it. I've met some church people that are just so hard faced and like, yo, where's your smile? Like, I don't understand how is God on you and you look so mean, right? And so that was one of the things that always kept me out of church. And you said a lot of things. You said something about what you were hearing about the work you're going to do, and it's not going to happen in the church. And it's so funny because my sister, she always jokes, and a lot of people joke, like, you're going to be a pastor one day because this whole transformation. I'm like, no, I don't think my work is in a church. I'm like, I don't necessarily agree with that. I don't necessarily agree with the church, you know, but I do agree that it's, you know, people need help, and I could use whatever I have to try to help them. And I think that my thing will be here and this, and when I'm in the street and moving around, like, you know, and it's just so funny that you said that because I had a similar feeling like, yo, it's definitely not in the church. Like, I don't, and no slight to church, you know,
no, absolutely
no knock to church. I just think that the people who I'm servicing, that I know that I have conversations with, aren't going into churches. I see them over on Smith Street up the hill when I'm walking. I see them over there by Liberation House when I'm walking. I see them over there when I'm walking.
Yeah.
And so these are the people that I'm affecting, you know? And so it's funny you just said all that because it was very similar to what I experienced as well.
Yeah. I think sometimes we, like you, I grew up in a church. And again, I'm not blasting anything negatives on churches or anything. I'm still active. But when it comes to EK Courage, one of the things, even church members, it talks about missionary work, right? And a part of missionary work is going out. And it's like, for me, as you mentioned, working in the shelter, I work with outreach workers, and they have, their mission is to go out and provide services to individuals who are homeless, right? So like EK Courage is an individual service provider who serve people who are out, right? And if it's an event I'm hosting, I know there are some people who, like you mentioned, are uncomfortable going inside of a church. But it doesn't mean that they cannot be served, nor are they looking for something deeper.
That's right.
So I feel God has blessed me to be that vessel. Just, he made it clear that it's going to be, you're going to do work, but it's not going to be in the walls of the church.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And I liken churches to hospitals, right?
Absolutely.
And I say, you know, but different, but I think church has obviously a greater responsibility, in a sense that, you know, you're coming to something for healing, or you're coming to something to get better. But I also feel like churches need to go outside and get the people and be actively seeking them as well. Like, as much as I wait for people to come to me, I actually look for people too. Like, I'm walking around, I'm looking, maybe who looked down today. Like, it's not conscious, but it's like, yo, man, pick your head up, bro. You know, I'm actively looking for a life to affect all day. You know what I'm saying? And I just believe that churches should do more of that. And I think if they did more of that, they would reach more people.
Yeah. I think, especially now since COVID and that the pivot a lot of churches had to make of no longer being in person and going the realm of virtual. I think that has speak to a lot of what we're talking about right now in regards to serving people that's not so much in the walls, because at that point you couldn't go in the building, right? But people still wanted to be fed that message. So now that churches have opened back up, a lot of churches are struggling because a lot of members aren't returning back in the building, but they still want that message. They still want to receive that fellowship experience. But more than anything, church is within us, because God is within us.
All right, see, Liz, you're about to open up a whole nother. I'm sorry, Elizabeth. I'm about to open up a whole nother 40 minutes.
I know,
but you're right.
But I'm gonna leave it right there, because that right there also sheds light of, it doesn't matter where you're at. You can still make that impact.
You're the temple. So EKCOURAGE, what type of workshops or empowerment things have you done so far? I know you did the walk, just what kind of type of things have you done?
EKCOURAGE, we have done vision boards, events.
You did like a vision board party, wasn't it? Or something?
Yeah, so I've done actually annual vision board parties, catering to taking an idea and watching and manifesting it. One thing I will say from then to now, so like I said, annually, I've always hosted vision board parties. It's happening as of 2025, January 11th to be exact. I'm actually
That's good timing.
Transitioning.
That's good timing for you. That's good timing.
Instead of doing a vision board party this coming next month, I'm going to be hosting our very first prayer board party. January 11th, we're going to be hosting our very first prayer board party. And the reason why I'm pivoting from the vision board party is because tapping again more into a spiritual realm.
I never heard of a prayer board, so you're gonna have to explain the differences between a vision board and a prayer board first.
Okay, so vision board is really, again, it's very much similar, to be honest. There are similarities. So it is a board, right? And what you're putting on that board are things that you are looking to see manifest within the upcoming year. Some people do it every 6 months. Some people do it annually. So the vision board, again, it's basically anything you would like to see come to life within the new year. Okay. Right? So it's and the reason why it's called vision board is because you're supposed to visually place it somewhere, whether it's in your bedroom, your living room, wherever you will visually be able to see it on a regular, different, every day, right? As a reminder to say, okay, this is my goals. This is what I'm working towards. And it's just a vision, right? It's a vision of what I would like to see happen and take place. Now, with a prayer board, again, it's very similar. You can decorate it, but one of the things that really differs is with the prayer board, you're really mainly praying now. You're taking these areas in your life, whether it be your family, whether it be your career, whether it be your dreams, whatever it is that you're really looking at, but you're seeking God first. And you're literally praying on these areas. And you're actually going to also incorporate scriptures.
Oh, I like that.
With your prayers. Okay. So when you get into those moments where you have these ideas and what you, again, would like to see take place and happen, we all know we can get discouraged easily. We can hear these voices, that will talk us out of, even if he's telling us we're supposed to be doing A, B, and C, but we get in our own ways sometimes. Most times, more than not, unfortunately. And this prayer board is going to be that constant reminder that not only is God with you, but it's also going to align the scripture to back it up. So when you get discouraged, you already have that go-to.
I like it. And so you talked about getting discouraged. And we talked before we turned the camera on, obviously, about get discouraged. So I want to say two things. One, just because you're on that walk doesn't mean you won't get discouraged.
Correct.
You're still
correct.
You still can get discouraged. You still can have days where you feel like, what am I doing? There's still days where I'm sitting here struggling. And I'm like, yo, why did I do this? I could just go get me a 9 to 5, give me a steady paycheck, and I won't have days where I'm eating soup, right? Like I could do that. But it doesn't exempt you from hardship.
No.
It doesn't exempt you from any of that. It's actually testing you and building you more so than it is that you're going to be exempt from it. And also, just because you're walking this way doesn't mean you're not going to make mistakes or you're not going to do things that are get you in trouble or something, or you won't slide backwards, or you know,
or pause.
It's a scale. You know, with me, man, it's like it's literally it's a scale. We possess both in us. We possess Christ in us, and we possess Satan in us. And there's days where it's wrestling. I'm wrestling. You know what I mean? We're doing what's right, or not being whatever, or not being a spiteful or vengeful or getting somebody back or whatever it is that I know to do, like my go-to thing. You know, these things that we suffer, and you struggle still. So you always can slide backwards. It's not, you know, people hold like a pastor so high and say, this guy should be so holy, but it's like, bro, he's human.
Yes.
Like anybody could fall victim and fall and slide backwards. So I just want to say that because, you know, we're having a very spiritual conversation, and anyone watching, you know, I don't want it to come off in a position of like you said, holier than thou. Like, yo, I'm walking with God. Like, I'm going to be this perfect individual.
Absolutely. No.
That's not what that means. All walking with God means is that I'm being obedient to the directions, and I'm listening, and I'm trusting every direction, regardless of if I believe it, regardless of if I know where the next step is at, I'm still going to take the step. That's what the walk is to me, in my opinion, because there's steps I've taken. Again, like I said, when I bought that sign, I didn't have a space. I didn't have anything. I didn't have any money. I just had a sign. I told my boy JP, I'm like, yo, bro, I need a sign about $400. I can afford $400. I need it to be, it's just for a wall. I'm like, it's just easy. He come with this big metal sign. This thing is $1,200. I'm like, JP, bro. He's like, oh, you can use it outside. It's waterproof. I'm like, bro, I don't need it to be waterproof. I need it to be in here. But it just, I took the leap right away. As soon as I had the idea, I just said, yo, I need this sign. And here we are today, sitting in a room which I don't truly understand how it happened, because I promise you, there was days where I was like, yo, I need to walk out of this and walk away from this.
But you didn't.
But I didn't. And it's here. And so I do my best. And I just go every single day and try to pay attention to the signs.
And that's the important part. When we talk about, or when you explained to me about this space, you know, one of the things you said to me was faith.
This place. So now you're going to make me tell you on camera. I was going to tell you off camera, but this place was built on faith. But continue.
And a lot of times in our moments of discouragement, because again, no one is perfect. Nothing, no one is perfect. And that's often the time, something I have to remind my clients of, that we all fall short because we're not perfect. My key, I always remind my clients, is that we strive for progression.
That's right.
Not perfection.
That's right.
And as long as we can get that in our mindset, that's what's going to carry us and keep us motivated and keep us going. Because if you really, really look for perfection, you're going to continuously keep looking, and you're going to go in circles.
Because it doesn't exist.
It doesn't. It doesn't.
It doesn't exist.
So it's like,
in a waterfall.
Once you're able to get that in your mind,
that's
like key right there, right? So something else we are working on, because I'm really, like I shared with you earlier today, I'm working on consistency. And really just
consistency, what, in EK Courage, or consistency?
Consistency and keeping EK Courage going, but more so going in the direction of alignment. So along with that, working on, I already have scheduled for October of 2025 a women's retreat.
Okay. So and what kind of retreat is this? So
that women's retreat is going to be an empowerment, and it's titled, it's acronym LAD, which stands for Love a Deeper You.
Okay.
So this retreat is geared for women to be able to come together.
Why did you add the Y? LADY. Lady? The Y was right there.
Yeah, Love a Deeper You.
Yeah.
LADY.
Oh, Y was there already. Okay, I thought you said LAD. I'm like,
no, lady.
All right.
Love a Deeper You.
My bad. Okay.
So it's being able to, and see how that Y, that one letter is so impactful, and that's exactly the mission behind this retreat, is for women to take that time for themselves.
What kind of things will you be doing at the retreat?
So we're going to have an opportunity for a guest speaker. We're going to have some wellness discussions, movement. We're going to have some downtime as well, because the women that's really catered to coming to this retreat are women who are constantly on go mode, whether they're working constantly, whether they're taking care of their loved ones constantly, whether whatever they're doing, they're oftentimes neglecting themselves.
I was going to say that when you said take care of this person, that person. Sometimes we people please so much we forget ourselves.
Exactly.
And I was in that cycle for sure, trying to show up for everybody, everywhere. And I'm like, yo, I got to show up for me. Like,
right.
Yeah, I got to that point where I realized nobody was going to really save me. I'm like, yo, I ain't got nobody to save me.
Yeah.
But I gotta pull back this energy and show up for myself because I'm putting it out. Yeah, I gotta divert a little bit of this back to myself.
Right. And that's really the main driven purpose for this retreat, is for women to be able to take some time for themselves, to be able to relax, really reset, and more than anything, just exhale.
That's right. All right. So Elizabeth, what do you see? What would you like to see for EK Courage? I mean, what is the vision for the next year or two, or what would you like to? What is your goal? What is your mission?
So our mission is to be able to educate, empower individuals. I say individuals because
there's no man's retreat. This is a woman's retreat.
For this one. Okay. For this one. Okay. So this is going to be my first actual retreat.
Do you have a place in mind, like a destination or something? Or what?
Yes. So we're going to be domestic. It's staying local, Catskill, New York.
Okay.
So it's a nice getaway. And it's very nature-based, but it's very also quiet. To get away from the noise of the everyday hustle and bustle, right? But again, that's one of the biggest goals I would like to see with EK Courage is to be able to take this first retreat and then make it something annual, as well as continue making that impact and being able to reach the masses. I want to be able to continue providing online courses and seeing how these individuals who do partake take their own lives and work continuously on building and elevating. Because everything we always do is all also based on elevation and getting that person to the next level.
Are you guys, are you ladies going to be meditating at all over there? I meditate every single day. I'm a strong proponent of meditation. I think everyone, the whole world should meditate.
You know, it's interesting you say that because I never had meditated before. And then when I had started experiencing anxiety, that's when meditation came up. And it is very impactful. It's very empowering. It's very relaxing and calming, right? Holistically. So we will. And for some, that might be an introduction to meditation. So like every morning is actually going to be an opportunity for whether it's meditation of some sort of pouring into themselves, because how we start our day is so important.
For sure.
And you should always start your day with doing something for you.
For sure. I have a thing where I say every day you should do something for your mind. If that's read a good book or take it something good for your mind, take it something good for your spirit, do something that fulfills you spiritually, with that take a walk or go look at a sunset or whatever's going to fulfill you spiritually. And you should do something for your body every day good, whether that's eat good foods or whether it's hit the gym or whatever it is, pray or meditation, whatever it is for your being. Every day you should do one thing in those three things every day.
Right.
For your mind, your body, and your spirit. Something good for those things.
That's true.
Whatever good is for you, everybody's good is different.
Right.
You know, but it got to fulfill those three things.
Yeah, because that's the holistic part. It's like if you only tap into one area, then the other two areas are like crying for help. And you want to always make sure holistically you're really feeding all of it.
And I want to go backwards a little bit too, because I just thought about something, and I almost felt like I was going to wrap this up, but I just thought about something. Earlier, you talked about like mistakes, whatever, not dictating your future and things like that, and things you've been through. So I just want to talk about the past and how it shapes you too. You make mistakes, or you're in environments, rather. You said environments too earlier. So for me, I was in an environment of the West Side. I'm on the West Side. I'm in the hood, right? And I came out the womb, Michael. I was like this smiling kid, bubbly, bouncy kid, up until about 5th grade, 6th grade. And then my environment started shaping me more, I would say. You know, I'm being outside, I'm seeing dudes get money, I'm seeing different things, I'm watching different things. and I'm going through things too. So now I'm developing a character.
Okay.
And the character, the response to the trauma I was experiencing, and the character I was developing to cope with my environment was M. Dot. Like everybody calls me M. Dot. And I tell my daughter who's over there hiding out, whatever she's doing, that she never met M. Dot. Like she met Mike.
I never met M. Dot, and I've known you for some years now.
Yeah, so that was my double life. You met me in the New York Sports Club when I was Michael. When I'm at work, I'm Michael. When I clock out, I'm M. Dot, right? But that person, you know, that was willing to hurt somebody or willing to do whatever I had to do to survive, was a necessary part of that part of my life. And I think that a lot of times we go through things where we do develop these characters of ourselves in this armor we put on to protect ourselves at a very early age, but we never take it off.
Right.
A lot of us leave that on and we say, this is just me. Like, I'm snotty like this, or I'm mean like this. Like, you're not mean like that. You're mean like that now because maybe somebody picked on you when you was little and you figure, hey, this is how I'm gonna get them off me. And you just kept it so long and now it's still on you. And I think at a point in our lives, we got to really sit and start undoing and undressing some of that stuff we put on, some of that armor we put on to cope with the environment that we were in at that time. I know for me, like a lot of that stuff that I needed then, like I was so paranoid and everything. Like it's like today I don't really think about that stuff because I'm not even around it as much. And I'm not saying it don't exist because the element always exists.
Absolutely.
But I don't really think about it as much. So it's these things that I've developed are less necessary today than they were when I was on the block for 24 hours slinging drugs.
And that comes back to growth.
Yeah.
You know, and it's interesting because when I do work with clients, I usually work with them. If it's a one-on-one individual sessions, usually I set it up for 12 weeks. It may be a little shorter, maybe a little longer, depending on the individual, of course. But I always try and baseline at least minimal, a good 6 to 12 weeks. And the reason for that is because the first 1 to 2 sessions, I'm doing what I call peeling the onion.
Oh, it's important.
So I have to literally, as I'm listening to that person, I'm also helping them to process, understanding what it is that you've been through, where it is that where you are now, and more importantly, where are you trying to go? Who are you trying to become? What are you working towards becoming? Because if you are really focused on the past, that's where you're going to stay.
That's right.
And trauma can affect that, right? Your environment can affect that. But if you are working, you know, you have visions and goals for something more, or you're working towards becoming someone that you foresee you want to be, then there's work that has to come with it.
Absolutely.
And some of that work may entail letting go of some people.
That's right. That's
changing your environment.
That's
of
a
where
nasty.
You are.
Hey, don't you glance over. Hey, Liz, don't glance over that. I'm sorry, Elizabeth. Don't glance over letting people go. Cause man, it's hard. But
it's very hard.
But it is
very hard.
It is necessary. If they're not pouring and they're not helping, then they might gotta go. They're out of alignment.
And let me tell you what happens with that.
Yeah.
For every person that you let go, if it's meant for you to really, really let go of that person, God will fulfill you with a new person.
For sure.
That's going to fulfill the purpose.
For sure.
Because some people are in our lives for a season, and then some may be in our lives for lifelong. But it all depends. And sometimes we can hold on to those people that are really meant to be in our lives for a season.
For sure.
And it's only going to be detrimental to both parties.
That's right.
Which can lead to sometimes blocking blessings.
That's right.
So.
Right. All right, so we'll end there. If anyone wants to reach out to you or check you out, how can anyone do that? Yes.
So I am on social media on Instagram and Facebook, EKCOURAGE, and as well as I'm old school, so I still do take my phone calls and my text messages. 203-493-7503.
Listen, it is old school.
But you know what? For my population,
that is the most intimate
and that's what
means
it's about.
of communication.
And with the line of work I do, it's built on trust.
Right,
so a lot of times, some of my clients, they really purposefully try and stay away from social media.
Right.
for whatever different reasons.
Right.
So I always have to make sure I put it out there. And of course, email.
I just keep wanting to wrap up, but you say something. Social media. I think social media is really hard for someone in a healing process sometimes because it puts a lot of pressure and it puts a lot of things. But that's another conversation.
Yes.
But Elizabeth, thank you for sharing the walk and the journey and your work, and thank you for stopping by. And I'm excited to keep watching and see where it goes.
Me.
Of course.
I appreciate you.
That's a wrap. To be notified on all new releases, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching.